think a lot of people end up really latching on to that 10, 15, 20 pounds that they might lose through self-hatred because it worked, but it's not sustainable and it doesn't last, and it just makes you want to quit. I don't want to quit. I want to keep going. I want to keep feeling better and keep being happy. I can't just grind away from something I hate to something else that I hate. That's a pointless life.
The Grateful Podcast with Jack Wagoner presents. Subscribe.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Grateful Podcast. I'm your host, Jack Wagoner, and today I'm joined by someone whose journey will challenge the way you think about fitness, weight loss, and self-improvement. My guest is Mike Pridgen, an expert in sustainable health, a voice of reason in an industry full of noise, and someone who knows firsthand what it takes to transform not just your body, but your mindset. Mike has lost 110 pounds 4 separate times, an experience that would leave most people feeling hopeless. But instead of quitting, Mike took a step back, reevaluated everything he thought he knew about weight loss, and finally figured out how to make change stick. Now he helps others do the same by cutting through the myths, toxic fitness culture, and unsustainable quick fixes that dominate the industry. What I love about Mike's message is that it's not about shame, extremes, or hating yourself into change. He teaches people to approach health from a place of self-respect, not self-punishment. That's something I think a lot of people, especially in the fitness world, get wrong. We're going to dive into the psychology of weight loss, the all-or-nothing mindset, and why so many people struggle to maintain their progress. I'm excited for this conversation because it ties directly into the theme of this podcast, pursuing something better while appreciating where you are right now. Mike, welcome to the show.
I think that might be the first time anyone's called me an expert. I like this. I need you to do all the intros to my videos now. I appreciate it, Jack. Thank you for having me.
Of course, man. I'm super excited. So one of my first questions is, the weight loss space is full of a lot of misinformation. You know, you got fad diets, miracle supplements, influencers selling gimmicks, and so many other fake money-making weight loss schemes. And this seems to me to be what you're combating. So what's the worst piece of advice you've seen go viral? And how do you help people cut through that noise and focus on what they need to focus on?
I'm going to give you a podcast exclusive here. I'm going to tell you about a video I've not put out yet, but I'm working on how to word it so I can release it. One thing that really bothers me, I think when something is really too sensational, not a lot of people are going to latch on to it. But it's the subtle stuff, you know. It's the things that are like, oh, that's kind of believable, or somebody that's got doctor in their name, even though they're a chiropractor, like technically a doctor. Just like, you know, if I'm having a heart attack on a plane, I don't want a doctor of literature giving me CPR, but they're allowed to sell supplements online. But what really bothers me is the subtle approaches. Because they could have just as easily, these people have usually made a lot of progress in their own lives. They've lost a bunch of weight just like I have. And instead of giving people the real thing, like there was somebody who talked about, the person I'm going to be highlighting in this video said to not exercise. Like, you don't have to exercise. In fact, you shouldn't. It's like it's bad for you. But here's my transformation, and here's how you can do the same thing with no exercise, and all you have to do is buy my supplement. And I'm just thinking, you could make a living teaching people the right way. Why is it that you choose specifically to lie? That's what bothers me the most about this, and I think that's what the most dangerous thing is people that really have made true progress in their lives and their health, intentionally lying when they could tell the truth.
Hey, why do you think they do that? Just for the attention? Are they making more money off of it that way than they would if they were just telling you the real things?
I think in the immediate interim they are, where a lot of money will come in all at once. But the thing with grifters, I've been around long enough now to see waves where they'll come in and then they'll go because they've expended all of their goodwill that they've built up. Anybody that was willing to believe them has already bought in and been burned and told other people that already probably weren't going to buy into it. So they fade away. It's not a sustainable business model to do it that way. But I think it really is just at the very beginning, there is a lot of money and then there's nothing. So I don't know. I'd rather have the small payments up front than just have a large payment up front and lose it all later.
Right. I mean, on one hand, if there was a way that we could exercise or that we could lose weight without exercise, I mean, that would be phenomenal. That's why so many people latch on to that. It's like I've always said, I wish that my spinach tastes like chocolate or something like that, you know? I wish I liked the way salmon tasted, like, but it's just not how things work, and that's just a reality. And so many people want to change that.
That's the thing, Jack. That kind of is how it works. You can make it work that way. I just posted a video a couple of days ago where I showed people how to make a bacon, egg, and cheese sandwich for about 300 calories. And I'm not going for like the low-fat cheese or anything like that. It's real eggs, real cheese, real bacon, not the coconut bacon, whatever that is. Like, I want real food. I used to be a fat guy. I like my food. So my food has to be good. And I think a lot of people that are struggling to lose that 10 pounds, they're going back and forth on 10 pounds, are stuck on 10-pound habits. And what I mean by 10-pound habit is ultimately like it's enough. It's tolerable enough to lose 10 pounds on. So say you're just eating like unseasoned spinach or unseasoned salmon, or working out super, super hard to the point where you're like, I hate working out. You don't hate working out. You just hate high-intensity interval training. You know, you don't hate walking. You just hate running really hard. Like, I don't love running, so I don't do it. I walk. I don't love doing deadlifts, so I do rows instead. Like, I have to find something that I enjoy, or I'm not going to stick to it, and I'll be stuck on 10-pound habits forever. This has to be enjoyable, or you won't stick to it, because losing 100 pounds takes a long-ass time.
How long?
It depends. I mean, for me, it took 6.5 years. If a person were to do it perfectly, depending on who the person is, I'd give them a time span of about 1.5 to 2 years.
Yeah, but everything we see online is like the 30-day things, or lose 20 pounds in the next 7 days, things like that, and that's what grabs people's attention. They don't want to see they don't want to hear the harsh truth that it's actually going to take 1.5 years, even though 1.5 years of dedicated, consistent work is going to actually be more efficient than 5 years of trying these 7-day fads that never work. It'll also be a lot cheaper, I think.
If I gave you, say, just for example, Joe Rogan's platform, where he's got 100 million people listening to him every week, and it was episode 1 for you, do you think you could handle that pressure?
God, no. I don't know. Maybe. I have no clue.
Why not? You've got the platform, you've got the microphones, you've got the guests. Why wouldn't you be able to handle it on day 1?
No experience.
There's no experience. You need the experience. It would be the same thing as if I had booked you for a show in Madison Square Garden to play music for 10,000 people, and you've never touched a guitar. Like, first off, I can already see you going red just thinking about the damn thing, because, of course, any of us would be nervous. I've been playing guitar 16 years, and I'd be nervous to do it. You know, so it's the most important thing. The reason that I say it'll take 1.5 years, 2 years, sometimes more, is because you're not just losing weight, you're learning how to not regain it. That's what is not focused on in the weight loss industry, because it's not profitable to teach people how to not regain it, because the profit comes from them regaining it and going back to Weight Watchers and signing up for another 3 months.
I hadn't thought about that.
A lot of people don't. That's why this industry is so profitable.
Yeah, it's a money-making industry first. That's what it is. Huh. It's interesting and very refreshing to see your point of view and your message of being kind to yourself in the fitness industry. I think that's something that many people lack. It's very rare. I think a lot of people conflate being kind to yourself with this idea of giving into your wants and desires. So I know that's not what you mean. I want to hear what you mean by being kind to yourself.
So I'll just go back to what I was at 265 pounds. I was in the McDonald's drive-thru 3 times a day. I'd get 2 McDoubles without pickles, a large fry and a large Sprite twice, and then I'd get 6 sausage burritos in the morning. It was a rough time. It was like 5,500 calories all in. That's not me giving in to my desires. That's not me being kind to myself, because I felt like garbage when I ate this way. When I ate an entire ShopRite cheesecake sampler to myself, eating 2 slices in the car because I was able to, it was cold enough that you could eat 2 of them if they weren't chocolate with your fingers without it melting everywhere. That's not being kind to myself, because it feels awful. So when people conflate that message of being kind to yourself with giving up on yourself, I don't think that's the case. Because I was not being kind to my body. I was not being kind to myself at all. But on the other end of that, yelling at myself and telling myself that I'm worthless and that I'm awful and everything that I do, I won't amount to anything, that's not being kind to myself either. That sucks. Why am I going to do work for a person that I hate? So that's where the be kind to yourself message is, because there's so many bullies online, and you don't often see an old gym bro. They tend to disappear. There's a reason for that.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. My generation, it seems like, has really dove into the gym head first. Like, so many people in the gym, people are always drinking their creatine at school and things like that. But I think what the problem is the intention behind it. I do agree that it's good for a lot of kids my age to be going to the gym and caring about their health, but their intentions behind it are what's flawed. How do we reframe society's intentions behind it? Because it seems to me like if we keep going down this path of trying to change ourselves because we hate ourselves, it's going to backfire. So how do we pivot that?
I'm doing the work right now. My friends are doing the work right now. It's a lot of reprogramming, but I've got hundreds of thousands of people on several platforms that have signed up for that message, and I've now been around long enough to see these people lose 100 pounds, 150 pounds. Like, that's insane. These people who spent years or decades hating themselves like I did, making the same kind of progress that I did by being kind to themselves. I did not get there until I had lost all of my weight already. I'm 6'3". I was down to 155 pounds. For those of you unfamiliar with size and shape, I was very underweight. You could see my ribs. I was cold in the summer. I'd see static when I stood up. And I still thought I was fat. And I still thought it wasn't enough. But then I started running the numbers and figuring out, where do I go from here? There's nowhere to go. There's no more fat to get rid of. I'm just losing muscle mass at this point. And because I'm more a hypochondriac than I am a self-hater, I was able to stop and say, well, if I keep going down this path, I'm dead. That's where this ends up. I don't end up healthier. I don't end up stronger. I end up dead. And so I had to make a change. And that change came in the form of like, okay, I guess I have to regain some weight. And to do that, I can't hate myself through it. I've got to be kind to myself. And at the time, I was very alone for various other reasons. So I was the only person available to be kind to me. I couldn't hate myself through it. I had to go about it in a healing manner. And that was the time it stuck. That was the time that I didn't regain my 100 pounds. And now I'm, from that period, 20 pounds heavier and much healthier. But I had to earn it.
Yeah. Huh. How do you feel about David Goggins?
This is sort of an open secret, but I'm not running it currently, but in the past, I have run promotions where if you prove to me that you followed David Goggins and then unfollowed him, I would give you a discount on my coaching. I hate David Goggins so much. There are people that get audiences instead of therapy, and David Goggins desperately needs help, and I don't think people realize that. Like, I'm not trying to diagnose anything here. I'm not saying like he's got some kind of he seems like he's miserable. And just because he's a good talker and because he talks loud, people take a lot of inspiration from him, and I think it's misguided. But he just doesn't seem like somebody that I don't want to take advice from.
Yeah, I agree. I think, well, the reason I bring that up is because I hear what you're talking about and this idea of like changing through hatred for your body And that's what his message is all about. It's like you gotta push away from this thing you hate, instead of kind of like focusing on what you're grateful for, I guess, bringing it to the Grateful podcast, But
have you had a bad boss before?
I have, yeah.
Yeah. How motivated were you to work for that boss?
Not very.
Not very. Why?
Because partly I think I always thought that I could do better at his job also. It just didn't feel purposeful. It felt annoying, and yeah.
Do you still work for that boss?
Yeah.
Well, your boss is probably not listening to this right now.
No.
I'm going to assume you probably don't want to work for this person that much longer, do you?
No.
When you are a bad boss to yourself, you can't quit. You're stuck wiping that bad boss's butt when you go home on the toilet because you are your own bad boss, yelling at yourself and telling yourself you're never good enough. You will constantly want to quit. There's no motivation there. You can grind it out for a couple of months and get some progress, and I think a lot of people end up really latching on to that 10, 15, 20 pounds that they might lose through self-hatred because it worked. But it's not sustainable, and it doesn't last, and it just makes you want to quit. I don't want to quit. I want to keep going. I want to keep feeling better and keep being happy. I can't just grind away from something I hate to something else that I hate. That's a pointless life.
Yeah. This grind is pretty synonymous with, I feel like, the all or nothing mentality I see a lot in fitness, in business, in many things. People want to make a change, so they go right away to the next extreme. They'll go from junk food to eating only salads, from never exercising to intense workouts at 5 a.m. 7 days a week. How do you build sustainable habits instead? Because it's hard to get someone to understand that that's not going to work. Because logically, for a lot of logical thinkers, it seems like it would work. Of course, if I go to 7 days a week working out, of course it'll help me. But it actually won't.
Good observation there. In healing trauma, we tend to respond with habits and actions that feel equal to that feeling. So say that somebody goes from, like I was, just constantly 10, 12, 15,000 calorie days, barely moving, eating basically for self-harm, will be more inclined to go to a fitness regimen that feels like self-harm because it's all they know. And it doesn't feel effective enough to go slowly because the feeling that we're trying to get away from is more intense than that. So it's one of the worst answers I often have to give is sometimes you just can't do it alone. You got to talk with somebody else. You have to share this with someone. Find a trusted friend. Talk to a therapist. Like I said before, these people are getting audiences when they should be getting therapy. Talk it out. Run it by somebody that's outside of your head that can maybe bring you up to reality or level you out a little bit. And start slow. Just like you wouldn't say, if a cat was overweight or something and the vet tells you that you have to put them on a diet, you're not just going to say, okay, well, you're not eating for 3 weeks. That would be insane. Well, that's animal abuse. That's awful. You can't do that to a cat, but we do it to ourselves. Why?
Yeah, we don't treat ourselves the way we would treat other people.
No.
And that's one of the hardest things, especially for people that want to push themselves. I don't think pushing yourself is a bad. I think pushing yourself is necessary, but sometimes you push it really, really way too far, and it's really hard to see the line where you're going too far.
I push myself every day. I think that's the piece of it that gets lost in the be kind to yourself message with some of these people that have spent their whole lives with self-hatred, is that they think that I'm slowing down or that I'm getting smaller or getting weaker or something because I'm being kind to myself. No, I was at my weakest when I was the angriest with myself. for sure. I didn't have the constitution nor stamina nor nothing to live the life that I deserved to live. But now I do. And I push myself every day. And some days I'm taking it a little bit slower. But I can do so much more because I want to, not because I have to.
Right. That's hugely important and so misunderstood. So misunderstood that the entire self-improvement industry thrives off the exact opposite of that.
Well, it's
really
a
hard.
Toxic relationship. It's a codependent toxic relationship. And that's what they rely on. They want us to be dependent on them for the answers, dependent on them for support. They want us to always go to them. When I work with my one-to-one clients, I tell them right up front, I want you to fire me. I want to get this to a point where you fire me, and then you don't need me or anyone else ever again. I'm not going to give you a meal plan. I'm not going to give you an exercise plan. I'm going to help you build your own so you can keep building your own for the rest of your life. I don't want you to need anything. It gets them out of the system.
That's huge because, well, yeah, so many people, like you just taught me earlier with like these Weight Watchers type things, they want you to lose it, so you have to come back and pay more money. We always think that if we hire a coach or someone, they have our best interests in mind, but a lot of times people will have their best interests in mind. A lot of times they'll want to make money off you. It's really sad, and I think myself, I'm a trusting person. I like to trust that people have good intentions, and it's sad to realize that a lot of people don't have good intentions.
I'll tell you something that I'm about to do different from other coaches. I don't love when this isn't the hill that I'll die on, but I don't love when coaches post client before and after pictures. It's like, here, this is how much they've changed in 3 months. If you've looked on my page, you'll notice that I don't have any of those pictures. And it's not because I don't want to necessarily, but it's because that's not the picture that I want. I am in the process, now that I've been coaching for a little over a year, I'm in the process of reaching out to some of my first clients, some of the ones that aren't with me anymore, to see if they're still doing well. And I've had 2 of them have gotten back to me. So this is like a very new process. I don't know when this comes out, but the pictures might be out by then. I don't want the 3-month category. I want to see what people are doing a year after we work together, 2 years after we work together. And I want to see the before and now. Because that should really be the metric by which we judge coaching. Anybody can get you results in 3 months. It's very hard to get someone results and keep them there for years. That's what I want to give to my clients. So those are the ones I'm going to be putting out, is like, here's where we started last year. Here's how the person still is now.
Right. Are you going to focus more on the mental side of things as well, the mental health?
I do that. Yeah. I'll do calorie tracking. I'll do nutrition, but we don't really start tracking until maybe halfway through our time together. We're working on habits first. If you assign a point system, you assign calorie tracking to a series of habits that you don't like, it's a losing game immediately. So we work on habits first, and then we use calorie tracking, if needed, to sharpen those habits. Calorie tracking is not the habit. It's the metric.
Interesting. So something, I'm changing the subject a little bit, but something I've been noticing a lot recently is, I eat so much food that although it's like healthy, it's not natural. It's kind of scary. Like, I'll eat a Quest bar about every day, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I'll have a protein shake, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, this is not like real food that my ancestors would be eating and things like that. I want to hear your opinion on this. I don't know if it's good or bad. It's just an observation I've had, that how much processed food we're actually eating.
It's definitely a problem, for sure. And I know anybody that, my haters, so to speak, who may be listening all the way through to this, would be surprised to hear that ban food dyes. I don't care. Like, we don't need them. They're not good. They're not the main problem. You know, blaming food dyes for poor health is like blaming salt in the ocean on drowning. It's like, yeah, it's in there, but that's not what's doing it. You know, I would recommend getting most of your protein from good whole sources, as I do. I have lots of chicken breast. I've got ground beef, non-fat plain Greek yogurt. I've got some cottage cheese in there. I've got a lot of really good whole food sources. But I like a Bear Bell bar from time to time. I've got tubs of protein powder. You know, it's not that big of a deal. Just, you've heard of the 80-20 rule?
Yeah.
Yeah, just
But
do
could
that.
you explain it?
Oh, yeah. For those who don't know what the 80-20 rule is, the idea is to get like around about 80% of your food from good, whole, nutritionally dense sources. And then that extra 20%, like, live like a human being. Get a slice of pizza. Don't worry about it. I take it every time I go to a restaurant. I take a picture of me eating all the foods that people tell me I can't eat. And later on this spring, I'm going to get some blood work so I can post it at the end of it. Well, actually, just because you look like you're in shape doesn't mean your blood. And so that's coming too. I'm revealing a lot of stuff here on this podcast. But, that's one of the plans for content is like, here's me eating a pizza, here's me eating ice cream, and here's my blood work. It's better than yours. Because I'm not just
I saw your video
meat.
eating. Yeah, I saw your video eating Taco Bell the other day. I thought that was awesome. My food like that is I'll get a Five Guys burger every once in a while. They are so good. Yeah, I'll get everything on them. You know what I mean? That's like my treat to myself. Get a Five Guys burger, and I think people have this idea that, again, it's all or nothing. But I mean, I'm a pretty healthy guy, and I can have a Five Guys burger. I had those Take 5 bars.
Oh, yeah, those are good. I like that with the pretzels in them and everything. Yeah.
Exactly. I'll have a Take 5 bar a few nights a week for dessert. You know, you can treat yourself.
Yeah. It's the food you eat has to be good, or you're not going to stick to it. Nobody has to. No one had to remind 265-pound Mike to eat 2 pints of Ben & Jerry's ice cream a night. No one had to be like, hey, make sure you do that. Because it was 2 pints. Yeah, I was insane. I was not being kind to myself at that point. Anybody, he's being kind to himself. No, I wasn't. I was being extremely hard on my body, just like when I was starving myself, just like when I was doing keto. I wasn't being kind to myself there. I was responding to trauma with trauma and expecting that it was going to solve it. But yeah, you have to have, I'm not going to have a Five Guys burger every week because it would start weighing me down at some point. I very much value how a food is going to make me feel. So like one of my rules is that I want to barbecue while the sun is up. Like, you want me to have barbecue? Bring me at night, because I don't want to have to do a day eating with that much food in my stomach. Because it's heavy. You don't want to go for a walk after that. But there's this place out here called Wells Cattle Co. It's a burger place. I'll plug it every time I can. It's the best food like ever. It's one of my top 5 at this point. And there's not a shot I could have that every week and live a positive life. But the times that I do, it's good, and the sun is down. The sun is firmly down.
The sun being down's big. I've noticed, though, like, and I know there's research to back this up, but eating way too close to my bedtime hurts. Like, hurts everything. I spent a year in France, and we would eat at like 9:30 p.m. and it hurt. It affected sleep. It affected just how I felt in my body.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
You definitely don't want a heavy meal before bed. By the way, calories don't count double after dark. It's just like you're gonna have to be sitting with that all night. It's not great. It's like sleeping with a weighted blanket on. You're going to wake up tomorrow morning fine, but like you're just not going to feel great while you're sleeping. It does interrupt some sleep patterns, but ultimately speaking, it's not going to make you gain more weight. Your digestive system isn't like less active or something at night.
If you're enjoying this episode of the Grateful Podcast, I would very much appreciate it if you could either share this podcast episode with friends and family, or kindly leave a review down below on whatever podcast platform you're listening on. It would help me be able to make this podcast better for you, better for all my other listeners. Thank you. Enjoy the show. So, everyone knows that America has a problem with obesity. Researching for this, the NIH reports over 40% of adults over 20 are obese in the U.S. And I think that's crazy to think about. When I lived in France, talking about that, they made fun of us and stereotyped us as being fat. How does this country with like highest GDP in the world and just like such a wealthy country, how do we have this massive problem of health and obesity? And why does it keep going in the wrong direction?
So we're actually not number one. I'm not sure which number we are. You could fact check me there, but we're not number one. Fun fact. There are some other countries that beat us in obesity, but we're very high up there. So it's not like it's not a problem. This isn't me downplaying it. It's definitely got a bit to do with packaging and marketing. It's end stage capitalism stuff where the food that is marketed to us as being delicious and being desirable is also food that doesn't fill us up. Like, I can kill an entire bag of chips, but put 4 eggs in front of me and I'm down for the count. You know, these foods are stripped of fiber and protein. There's no snack cake on the market that's got 20 grams of protein in it, you know, because they don't want you to be full. So that's definitely a piece of it. But I think just culturally speaking, we are inclined to want more. All of our marketing is, look at how big this burger is. Look at how many fries you get for this deal. So that's definitely a piece of it as well.
Yeah, the whole, like, you get this bang for your buck with it. You get this many fries for this cheap amount of money. That's interesting. I think that another reason I've identified is just, like, we've talked about it all day, but the reasons that people in our our culture in general. And so one of my questions for you is, as opposed to wanting to lose weight to look good, what are the healthy reasons to want to lose weight?
So if you just want to talk about longevity, statistically speaking, once you get to a certain point, if you have not taken on a good resistance training regimen, the chance that you are completely incapacitated by a fall goes way high. I'm aiming to be independent for the rest of my life. Will I be tip-top shape, ripped for the rest of my life? Probably not. But I just want to be able to be mobile. There was a spot where, when I started this thing, when I was 23 years old, which everybody would consider to be young, I couldn't really bend over to tie my shoes much. So it can start early. That was not an age-related thing where it's, well, he's just old and that's what happens, which, by the way, is a lie. Age does not mean that you have to deteriorate. But, one of the major things pushing me right now is that I want to be independent. I don't want anybody to have to take care of me. I don't have kids. I'll never have kids. So there's no one coming to the rescue. It's got to be me.
Yeah. Yeah, no one's going to save you. It's your choices. I think being independent is a good goal to have. Because again, that's just a realistic goal. It's just it's a healthy goal. You're not saying I want to have 5% body fat and look like Chris Bumstead. You're saying I want to live a healthy life and feel.
There's not a lot of old bodybuilders either,
No.
And it's you get people that have done it and retired, and they don't do it forever because it is an extreme sport. You have to take a lot of drugs, and you have to do a lot of very unhealthy things. I've got a lot of bodybuilder friends. The lifespan there is 2 to 5 years max, and then they're done. They're out of it. I've got friends who have just done one show, and they said, cool, I'm not doing that again. They would never recommend it to someone else because it's just insane the things they have to do. It's not a life to live.
Bodybuilders have become idols for young men in my generation. Like I have friends that want to be bodybuilders, and it's interesting to see online, drugs becoming and steroids becoming normal. It's a scary trend, I think.
Terrifying, especially when you see people dropping every couple of months. Like well-known figures in this space disappearing at 28, 30, 32. Like their hearts are shutting down from things that normally take out 80-year-olds because they have done a speed run of their health by injecting themselves with bovine growth hormone, trying to buy their body off of a shelf. It's not worth it. It's really not. And I think some of the people that go into this, like, I won't name names, but there are some people that seem to know what they're doing to themselves is going to be fatal, but they don't care. And that's not my motivating factor for sure. I just want to be healthy, I want to be around, and I want to be happy while I'm here.
Why do those people do it? Just to look big and just to impress other people?
There's a couple of factors. The more subjective ones, or the speculative ones, I should say, are there's probably a level of body dysmorphia in some of these people. I know I've got it myself, and that drove a lot of my weight loss, was body dysmorphia, not liking the way that I looked. And when you get on a cycle like that, it's even if you didn't have particular body dysmorphia before, you can't stop. You're just there unless you are the most mentally healthy individual on the planet, and somehow the steroids don't mess you up mentally. You will be on that until it drops you. And if you're not careful, that'll happen quickly. But the other piece of it is just like they want to be the best. They want to excel in their sport, and to do that, you have to take drugs. And to any kids right now who are listening, and you want to be a professional bodybuilder, please understand that the people who claim to be natural and talk about how natural they are and natural is in their bio, our bodies are our business cards. They are not natural. I promise you this, if they look too big to be true, they are too big to be true, unless they are just genetic deformities or anomalies where for whatever reason they can just look at a dumbbell and gain an unhuman amount of weight. They are lying. There's a lot of very well-known natties, as they call them, that are lying.
Yeah.
So don't be disappointed.
I had a conversation with someone the other day on my podcast. He was the podcaster I was telling you about, the kid my age, and we were talking about this idea that all of a sudden it went from people trying to hide, they were always trying to hide the fact that they took performance enhancing drugs, to now it being almost a sense of like pride, or I don't know. It's becoming so open to a point that people are normalizing it. And we were asking the question of, is it better to have it done in the dark and be lied to about it, or is it better now with it being so open, but it's setting an example? The consequences are real for both.
That's such a good question. It really is, because there's downsides to both. I'm going to say, man, because I'm thinking to myself, when they're doing it in the open, most people are not promoting it. When they do talk about it, they're saying, don't do it the way that I'm doing it. Like, here are the dangers. Like Dr. Mike Israetel, he'll never promote it. He'll talk about the fact that he does it, and he'll talk about how much it sucks. But still, this person, like, I'm thinking of a bunch of other names where there are a lot of young people that look to these people as idols. And even though they say, don't do what I'm doing, they so much want to be like their hero that they're willing to take the needle anyway. And I think with the natural label, there's still that cognitive dissonance of, well, this might be possible without drugs. So maybe because I respect this person, who is natural, wink, wink, I won't take any drugs, but I'm just going to feel like crap about myself. I would rather somebody feel badly about themselves than take steroids and not be here to feel at all.
That's a good point. Yeah. I think about with athletes, and growing up, I was huge into baseball. And if I saw, like, I have a picture of Bryce Harper on my wall right there. I'm a Phillies fan. If I saw Bryce Harper, if he released his new cleats, I would buy his new cleats. If he had a drink that he was drinking, I would drink that. You know what I mean? And so, for these people that are obsessed with bodybuilding, if they see their idol doing something, they'll probably, a young person is likely to do what they're doing. So, I agree that it being in the dark and more of a secret, it's probably better, because even if there's some inkling in the back of your head where you know it's not real, you still have that hope, and you can try to be like them while being natural.
You probably don't, you might know this from just being into baseball, but about 20 years ago-ish, there was a player named Alex Rodriguez. A-Rod, they called him. And he was like the biggest star ever. I don't watch baseball at all, and even I knew him. And I remember when the steroid scandal happened, because he was taking steroids, it ruined him immediately. It took his whole career. I don't know what he's doing today. I don't know what he's up to right now. But I think he had to stop playing. People were so angry about it. And he should be. He's cheating. But nowadays, I think if that were to happen now, and there's probably plenty of these people doing these kinds of performance-enhancing drugs, it really is glorified. Like you said, it's looked up to, and that concerns me deeply.
Yeah, and I think it's all coming from a place of hatred and comparison. I mean, social media for the fitness industry has just exacerbated an already prevalent problem of unhealthy comparison. I have you seen the things with like old action figures compared to new action figures?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I'll give you a good example of another one that happened 20-ish years ago. Tobey Maguire in Spider-Man. Very good shape. You take a picture, look at him there if you want to take a look at like what he looked like as Peter Parker. He was considered like unimaginably ripped at the time, and you look at him now, he's just like an average guy, technically speaking. I still think he was in great shape. Same with Hugh Jackman in the first Wolverine. You look at a picture, you're thinking of Wolverine now, like in Logan. Old Man Logan, where he's just grizzly and ripped and huge. If you look at the first movie, he's like a guy cosplaying Wolverine. Doesn't even look like him. Yeah, take a look at this thing, because it's insane how much with the same person. It's not even like a standard of different people. It's one person. Their standard has changed because of our cultural shifting.
Holy shit!
Yeah, it's wild, isn't it?
In the new one, he's actually unimaginably ripped. In the first one, he looks like
he's in shape. He's good. He's got some.
He's in good shape.
Yeah,
but
he looks like a guy who showed up at a convention.
Yeah,
compared to the current one, who is dehydrated, has a team of dietitians and trainers and everything. I think he said it was 8 people. That helped him look like that. And he also said about that experience that while he loves playing Wolverine, he hates getting in shape for it. Because it's not realistic. It's not something you can do forever. It's something that you do to prepare to be on screen for 20 minutes. And then you got to stop.
Yeah. I read that Chris Hemsworth, before he played Thor, would always like do 50 push-ups before getting on set so he would be pumped. Yeah, things like that. Things are so fake. Things are so fake, but we don't see that. What Nick Pollard said on my podcast.
I hate that guy.
I loved it.
I hate that guy so much. He's displeased me. Now he's one of my best friends. Love that guy.
He goes, we're always looking at other people's highlight reels while looking at our own gag reels. And that's so true in fitness as well. And it's always been like that. But right now it's just accentuated.
Oh, completely. It's being in this space. I have to be very acutely aware of it because I don't want to give off the air that I'm doing better than I am. So I talk about my struggles openly when I am dealing with things now, because I'm still on a journey. It may not be a weight loss journey anymore, but I'm on a self-improvement journey. And there are times where I still struggle. And I think a lot of people in my space are unwilling to talk about that piece of it because they feel that it may sully their credibility or make them a little bit less trustworthy because they haven't beat it, quote unquote. And I think of it like when you're dealing with an ED, an eating disorder, you're kind of always in recovery, just like an alcoholic. I will always be in recovery from my binge eating disorder. I'm doing great. I don't have slip-ups anymore, but I certainly have those thoughts in the back of my head that tap on the back of my skull and tell me, like, well, you could just house this pizza right now. Well, why? I don't want to. It's going to make me feel bad. Well, you could and you want to, don't you? No, I don't. But it's still there. Whereas I refer to it as an annoying roommate that every once in a while gets a little bit loud. Just knock on the wall real quick to get him to shut up. It's less where it used to be megaphones against my ears yelling at me all day. I've moved the noise away from my head.
It's getting quieter.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting. I really respect the authenticity you have online. I think that's one of the things that's really lacking in the online space. How do you balance that authenticity with also being you're trying to sell something while you're also trying to balance being authentic. And I think that's a hard balance to have.
There's enough people. I don't have to lie. I don't have to present a different version of myself. There's enough people exactly as you are. Whatever it is that you're trying to do or want to make a living through. And that's why, I'll go back to how we started this with that person who made great progress in their weight loss and then lied about how they did it. You don't have to lie to do it. You can just be exactly who you are, and you can make a living. And this is what I do. I don't have another job outside of this. I'm not rich, that's for sure. I'm still, just paying my rent every month, just like everybody else. But I don't have to lie to get that money. Maybe I'd be rich if I did, but I couldn't sleep at night if I did.
Right. There are trade-offs to it. You're sacrificing potential. There's an opportunity cost of potential money, but also losing self-respect.
Self-respect, the respect of others, because eventually, are you familiar with Scotty K Fitness?
No.
He's go check him out after this. He's a great guy. He has latched onto this one guy. There's a company called V-Shred.
Yeah.
And you're familiar with V-Shred? It's not the most honest corporation, we'll say. They push a lot of very old science and very harmful science. They talk about something called somatotypes, which is based in very deep racist publications. It's like a body type thing where it's this person has a certain body type, so they have to eat a certain diet. Really messy. Really, really messy. None of that exists, by the way. That is a company that is, for all intents and purposes, it looks to me like it's not doing well anymore. None of the videos that they post do well. They're not getting reach anymore. All of the comments are people that are like, you lied to me or this didn't work. So there's no one supporting this anymore. And at a certain point, this company was doing extremely well. And if they had just told the truth, because the guy's in great shape, the spokesperson is in great shape, he could just tell people what he's actually doing. and then people wouldn't call him a liar anymore, and he would have a successful business. Now, would it be a little bit smaller? Maybe, yes, but he's been able to reach tons of people. I've been able to reach tons of people, enough to sustain me. You do not have to lie or stretch the truth to do anything in this world that's worth doing. I don't believe so anyway.
Right. But it goes back to what we were saying about the short-term gain in front of you. I mean, V-Shred, every advertisement on every video I watched on YouTube was V-Shred for like 2 years. And I mean, I think they were doing very well, and they definitely made a lot of money, but
oh yeah,
it's been called out, and they've lost their trust. So it's those trade-offs of short-term gain versus like long-term investment and honesty.
Mm-hmm. And then there's some that like where they're selling a supplement and they're talking about metabolism, and you have to fix your metabolism. Don't talk to a doctor though. Make sure you talk to me, this person on TikTok or this person on Instagram who knows more than doctors and the government, who are all lying to you, and there's a conspiracy. And I'm not here to shill for big pharma. I think we're overprescribing medicine that's not needed, and we're not treating root causes. We're treating symptoms. So I get that. But also I'm going to trust research and science and the people that do this for a living over the worst and dumbest person from your high school that figured out that they could buy some extra stock in Unicity and sell it out of their garage. Like I've taken my side.
Yeah. I think it's really interesting to look at it and zoom out and understand that the people that are selling these things, they're able to do that because people as a whole are not well educated on health. And so I know personally, if someone's going to spit random facts at me and use all these fancy words and talk about different metabolisms and all that, I'll probably, my first inclination will be to trust them. And as a whole, as society, we're very undereducated on health, and so we're inclined to believe people that are selling us lies because they talk in a smart way.
You know why this be kind to yourself message is so important to me? Because one of the things that these supplement salespeople do very well is communicate these messages in a kind and compassionate way. So even if you're telling the truth, but you're telling it poorly and you're telling it rudely, the people for whom, the people that need this will turn to a supplement salesperson who is telling them a lie kindly. Always. Every time. And these gym bros who they know how to track calories and they know how to work out, and they could be giving good information, spend all of their time bullying and lying to people. I just recently had to unfollow this one guy who I'd been following for years, had great content, was, showed people how to work out or gave them nutrition advice or what have you, competed as a bodybuilder, did very well, and then started posting videos about I hope you're uncomfortable this summer with your shirt off. I hope that you hate your body and you're uncomfortable. And I called him out and I said, you know how to help people. You know the proper information. This is only going to serve to send somebody who needs your help to someone who's going to take advantage of them. And of course, he's like, no, bro, I'm just trying to help, bro. I just care about people, so I'm trying to help. That's not helping. That's bullying. If you do not offer advice or support, you're bullying. I'm not telling you got to be responsible for everybody's success, but if you're just going to bully people, that's not helping anyone. Just don't say it.
It reminds me of a post that a reel you made this week, which was, I think it was this week, which was like a skit where someone was basically bullying someone into working out. Mm-hmm. I've seen that happen so much. And a lot of times that person, the bully, does think they're doing something good. Mm-hmm. I've seen kids get jacked off of being bullied for being unhealthy, but they're not happy.
No, and it sucks that they have to do it through that kind of adversity. I feel bad for anybody that has had to, and I'm proud of them for doing it anyway, and I hope that they can find it in themselves to be grateful podcast, for all of the work that they've done for themselves and not do it through hatred. Yeah, that I posted that I think yesterday or the day before, and the video just starts off by saying, "Hey, you should work out. You're fat." And the person's like, "I have been working out, and I know I'm fat. Could you help me out?" And the guy goes, "Oh, you can't just expect everything from me. You got to earn this yourself." You go, "Well, okay, you know what you're talking about, so could you give me something, anything?" "I'm just trying to help. I don't know what you're on me about." I said, "No, you're not. You're not trying to help. You just want to bully someone and feel superior over someone else. That's it."
Well, that person probably got, I mean, in most cases, I'm guessing the person that's bullying had the same thing happen to them. So
Yep.
they're proud of themselves for being at the point where then they're able to get fulfillment or fake fulfillment by doing the same thing.
I'm sure Nick would say the same thing. It is up to us to break trauma cycles. It sucks that this happens, and that we have to. And I've experienced some really awful things in my life, but I'm not going to make others suffer because of it. I've had to do a lot of work on myself to make sure that others don't suffer for the things that I've gone through. But it's very important that I do that, not just for them, but for me.
Right. So if you're actually trying to help someone out that you're close to that is overweight, what's the best way to do it?
Create opportunities. People don't like when I say that, because, well, they're not my responsibility. Well, if you care about somebody, it shouldn't be that big of a deal to invite them out on a walk, or to make them a good meal one night that you know they're going to enjoy, but maybe a little bit healthier than what they're supposed to eat. And if you can't do that once or twice for somebody, you don't care about them enough to tell them that they need to improve. Just do it's not going to take you that much, especially if you already know what you're doing and you've had a record of success. It's not hard to help somebody that you care about enough to tell them that you want them to improve. Otherwise, you're just bullying them. I will die on that hill firmly. I'll slit my own throat on that hill.
I really like the creating opportunities. We don't think about that. Like, invite them to do something with you. I love to rock climb. My way I exercise is rock climbing. A lot of my weightlifting friends get mad at me because they're like, "I see these biceps, and how do you do that? You never bicep curl." I'm like, "Dude, it's just I rock climb." But I like to invite people to rock climb with me because it's a fun way to exercise and get them out of their routine.
I hate the saying Google is free. I hate it. It's true. Google is free, and we do have the world's knowledge at our fingertips. But it's like sending somebody into a library where all the books aren't labeled and saying, "Okay, learn how to get in shape." Where do I start? Google is free, but knowing what to Google is not. And that's why we have to guide people in the proper direction to get the good information. Otherwise, they're going to listen to these supplement salespeople. That's what I don't want. So that's why I'm on this mission, to make sure that we're being kind to the people who are behind us. We're all on the same path. No reason to throw a bunch of brush behind us to make sure that people go slower than we did.
Yeah, there is this competition, right, where people want to feel like they succeeded faster than other people, and really we're all in this together, and we should help each other up, not push each other down. And that's one of the biggest problems, I think.
But you're soft for saying that, bro. You're super soft. Yeah, guess what? I am soft. Where's your whimsy? Everybody saying this. Where is your childlike curiosity? Where's your happiness? Right? Nowhere? Cool. More for me. More for me and my friend Jack here.
Yeah. Yeah, people want to feel like they're... I mean, it's a crazy problem. Being an 18-year-old kid, senior in high school, you see that all the time. And it's hard to figure out how to combat it, how to combat this crazy competition. People showing each other pictures of each other flexing in the mirror, competing. "Oh, I'm bigger. I have bigger pecs than you. Well, my shoulders are bigger." It's like, what is happening? Um,
It's not good.
it's crazy. Yeah.
And I wish I was half as smart as you are at 18 when I was 18. I would be so much in a better position at this point. I had to learn so many lessons that you're already asking the right questions to learn. So you're on a good path, for sure. You're doing great, bud.
I appreciate it, Mike. Thank you so much, man. It's a good conversation.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it tremendously. Anytime somebody reaches out like this, I'm like, let's have a talk for an hour. You know, I know stuff that you want to know, so why not share it? It's all it takes,
right?
The knowledge is no good if it dies with us.
Yeah. There's this guy on the internet, like School of Hard Knocks or whatever, and his thing he always says is, what's he say? The richest real estate is, or the most expensive real estate? It's graveyards, because that's where all those $1 million ideas were buried. And I'm like, yeah, it's crazy to think about, you know?
Yeah.
We
just share what you've got. You know, you don't have to have a kid to have a legacy. You can share information with anybody, anytime, and it's totally free to do it, and there's no harm to you. All of my mentors in business including Nick, have given me their business models just freely and told me all I've got to do is when it's my turn, I get to help somebody else. That's it.
Yeah.
Nick has given me information to basically be in competition with him, ultimately speaking. But he knows there's enough business for him and me, and we teach things differently. So we're going to be reaching different people, and we are going to help more people together than we will apart. So share your information.
Yeah. Cool. Thank you for coming on, Mike.
Thanks for having me, Jack.
You just finished watching an episode of the Grateful Podcast with Mike Pridgen. Man, dude, this guy is so genuine. I really, really enjoyed that conversation. I'm recording this right after he hopped off the call, and that just left me feeling alive and feeling good about just the direction the world's headed. So if you enjoyed that, I think you'll really enjoy a conversation I had with one of his friends, Nick Pollard. You can go check that video out right here.